1960 was a real sort of make or break year for these communities. The 1960 Calgary plan contemplated 4 freeways to meet on top of the historic community of Inglewood. Hundreds of homes were slated for demolition. Where we're sitting here, right here on the river, it was contemplated that the railroad, which passes between 9th and 10th Avenues, would be rerouted onto the south side of the Bow and be accompanied by a 6-lane highway. Like, wrap your mind around that. And I think they'd sort of like gone to Pittsburgh in the 1950s to figure out how that sort of industrial center had managed their waterfront and decided that was a good idea.
Cities, structured of metals and stones and timbers and glass, of fibers and of plastics, for homes and stores and factories.
The 1960 plan for the city of Calgary, not only being crazily about building freeways, was also about how do we start protecting the city from flooding, because it was, I think it was very much in vogue throughout North America, and the Army Corps of Engineers in the United States was culvertizing rivers. And the 1960 plan for the city of Calgary didn't plan for, but discussed, and the city had hired, I think it was the firm called the Montreal Engineering Firm, to do a study where they would culvertize the Bow River. The culvertization of the river and the freewayization of the pinch points surrounding the downtown were 2 parts of a trifecta of doom in the Gray narrative. And the other narrative, of course, was the heavy industry that at the same time was placed on the banks of the Bow. Just downstream from here, there was a huge concrete reinforcement plant that built all the superstructure for all of the skyscrapers that were built in the 70s boom. And just downstream from there was the Russell Steel site, and heavy industry there. And just downstream from that, just abutting the bird sanctuary, was what's called the Wildlands Park now. And the Wildlands Park, sadly, are not quite wildlands yet. They're a moonscape because there was a massive petrochemical refinery sitting there. And these were all moved in at a time when the river was just completely not appreciated. There were 2 narratives that were taking place. And one was this sort of technocratic, build it up, pave everything over, build freeways narrative. And then the other narrative was a narrative that was alive and well in Inglewood, which is historical preservation and real neighborhoods and green over gray. And so somewhere in that battle, those 2 narratives clashed, and in Inglewood, thankfully, heritage preservation and neighborhoods prevailed. It took until the 70s for that to happen. And thankfully, on the Bow River, at a larger scale, the forces of green won out over gray. And we have this river, we have this amazing riverbank. It has been a series of unbelievably narrow escapes. We've gotten scraped and bruised and battered, but in no way materially harmed. And the fact that you do have a city of 1 million people and you can just jump into the river that flows by it is unbelievably rare and unbelievably precious.